What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today once again we're going to be talking about Destiny 2, checking everything inside the latest update. So it's called patch 1.1.3, otherwise known as the February update, and there's a few changes, fixes, new loot variants and stuff like that. I know a lot of you want to know if the update's any good, if it's worth hopping on for, so hopefully we'll do that inside this video. There is some good stuff and some bad stuff, but we've got a lot to talk about today. As always, drop a thumbs up on the video if you want to support the channel, and let's jump into the update and see what it's about. So like I said, we've got quite a lot to talk about inside this video. The first thing though is going to be the Nightfall strike scoring, the loot variants, the emblems and all that kind of stuff. So it is actually quite complicated. There are a lot of moving parts now, so there's definitely a lot to keep track of, and it's not as simple as just doing a strike. So pretty much when you do your first Nightfall, the normal version, you're going to get this emblem right here, which is basically standard. This emblem obviously is only tied to Tree of Probability, so next week when it's a different Nightfall, it's going to be a different emblem tied to that strike. So of course, another change is the Nightfall strikes no longer have the time limit counting down, which is going to boot you at the end of it, and instead it's now scoring. So generating orbs and getting kills is going to get you more score, and the aim of this week right now is currently 60,000 to get the aura. Now obviously if you do the standard Nightfall, it's pretty much impossible to get the 60,000 score. That is where you need the modifiers to come in. So the modifiers come from these things right here, the Nightfall challenge cards, and you also get this when you do your first normal Nightfall. So do it and it will drop guaranteed, I'm pretty sure. So this of course is going to let you put modifiers on, which makes it a bit more difficult depending on what you want to do, but it's also going to increase your score multiply, meaning you get more points, meaning it's easier to get 60,000, of course. So you can just basically increase and decrease this as much as you want. You can just keep on spamming the buttons. I believe the max is around 40 power handicap, so it will take 40 levels off you. And there's also Arc, Solar, and Void Burn, which had a 0.15 score multiplier. It's really confusing, but all three of these increase the damage by 25% of the enemy weapons and also your weapons. So it works both ways. The main thing to bear in mind is that when you hit 15 minutes into the Nightfall, you're only going to get 50% of your score, so it's going to be reduced. Basically, at all times, your score is constantly going to be going down, so to counteract that, you need to be getting score. But the thing is, after 15 minutes, you're going to get 50% score, so it's going to be increasing a little bit less. And then after 18 minutes, you're going to get no more score at all. So at that point, your score is literally going down, so you really need to get the strike done so you can stop losing as much score. So there's an interesting trade-off between the score multiplier and the power handicap. Obviously, with a bigger power handicap, you're going to get a ton more score, but it's going to take you a lot longer, and you're probably going to be halfway through the strike when you hit the 15 and 18 minute marks. Whereas on the other hand, if you have a low power handicap, you're going to get a low modifier, so you can go through a lot more of the strike and technically kill a lot more enemies, but you're going to get a lot less score. So one random combination that we tried was 2.1 times, which is 9 handicap. So with this, the enemies aren't actually too difficult, but I found this is the perfect balance of having a decent score multiplier, but also the enemies not being ridiculously strong and just melting you. Honestly, the best burn I'd say to put on would be Void, because simply the least amount of enemies do Void damage to you. Whatever you do, just don't pick Solar, because pretty much all the enemies inside the strike do Solar, so you're just putting yourself at disadvantage. So you want to pick the element that there's the least enemies doing that damage, if that makes sense. So with the Cabal, a ton of them all do Solar damage, so you don't want to put that on. Also, you notice quite a ton of the Cabal soldiers have those arc shotguns, which just destroy you, so you don't want to put an arc either. So Void is definitely the best bet. The only enemies that do Void are the Vex inside there. I'm pretty sure the main things are the grenades and laser beams, but there aren't many Vex inside the strike, so go for Void pretty much. In terms of weapons, you obviously want to use all Masterwork stuff because they generate orbs and you get points for generating orbs, so always use Masterwork stuff. But you pretty much always want to be using your energy weapon because it does 25% more damage with that burn applied. So once you finish a Nightfall with the minimum 60,000 score, you're going to get this aura right here. Literally the same thing we've had before, nothing too special. The main difference is that now all auras last 14 days, so 14 days from when you get it. So you can get an aura on Sunday, doesn't matter, it's going to be 14 days from that point. So it's no longer a case of them just disappearing every Tuesday. Now, there's also the Emblem Variants, which when you hit a certain score, you have a chance of getting there, not guaranteed. I was actually the only one on my fire team that didn't get one of these variants, so it's actually a luck thing. I mean, they don't do anything, they literally just look a bit different, they don't track anything or give you different abilities, they're just a different looking emblem basically. Now, something else is also the Destination variants. So these are basically planetary emblems, and these ones are pretty simple, but all these variants are unlocked simply by chests inside those locations. So obviously this is the emblem for Titan. Someone is attacking me with a sword, that's not very nice. And if you don't have the Lost Sector emblem for the planet, you can buy them from the planet vendor. You basically need to have opened 10 of her engrams and then you can buy it directly from her. But I feel like the emblems might be slightly bugged because I've definitely found all the Lost Sectors on here, so I'm not sure why it says 1. Okay, now it's showing 0 Lost Sectors found when a second ago it was showing 1. So this definitely seems a bit buggy. Apparently I've undiscovered a Lost Sector. I've forgotten where it is, but I did nothing and I've just lost a Lost Sector. But yeah, those are the emblems. Pretty insignificant if you ask me. I feel like there should be a lot more to grind. Ghost scans, there's only a certain amount on each planet, so you can't really grind and farm them and have like a really high score. I feel like it should show like total enemies killed on Titan, total chests open, total public events done, stuff like that. But with this, there's only like 3 Lost Sectors on Titan, so the highest that Lost Sector found could be would only be 3. So it's a bit of a pointless track if you ask me. See, I don't think the planetary emblems are too worth it. I think they could probably do some better stat tracks, to be honest. And also the drop rate on the emblem variants themselves seem pretty strict. I've never gotten one. I actually spent like a good 3 to 4 hours on Titan today, like grinding, farming, doing events, opening probably nearly 100 chests, and I've gotten 0. Some of my friends have gotten 2 or 3 of them, but it's pretty weird. Again, it's RNG. So yeah, I don't think the planetary emblems are much of a highlight about this update, to be honest. Okay, so next up, let's talk about some of the changes and fixes inside the patch notes. There's a lot of super random stuff here, but most of it is quality of life stuff, kind of little tweaks and fixes. So we have opt-in text chat for PC, which is now available inside social spaces and public areas. I guess it's cool, but I don't think many people use it, to be completely honest. Fire team members now appear on the destination map. Finally, it took long enough, but this is obviously a big quality of life thing. So when you're patrolling with fire team members and they fast travel around the place, you can see where they are now. Now, one of the big things is a buff to Masterwork armor. So it used to give you 3% damage reduction in your super, and now it's been increased to 5%. So overall, if you have 5 Masterwork armor pieces, obviously 5% each, is going to be 25% total damage reduction. So 25%, not bad, not significant either. I don't think it's been a massive deal. I've always thought the best thing about Masterwork armor was to change the stat roll to not mobility, but this is cool, I guess. But I still want to see a lot more from Masterwork armor. I think more tracking, just more features, more perks. But there you go, Masterwork armor is now buffed and is basically more powerful. They fixed an issue where ammo Masterworks could decrease the maximum ammo capacity of a weapon. Didn't know that was a thing, but it's been fixed. There was also a bug about irretrievable items in the Postmaster. The Eater of Worlds raid layer is now going to give faction tokens during faction rallies. A little bit late for that, but has now been done. And also the 2 perks on the exotic raid ghost shell now are going to trigger during the crossing encounter. So basically another encounter where you have a chance to get exotics or bright engrams. They fixed an issue for trials where the opposing team could leave and give you a loss for some reason. There are some bat error codes during a Mercury adventure, facing the wrong direction after dunking in public events, a Phoenix dive exploit that let you get outside the map, and there are also 3 changes and sort of fixes to exotic items. They're all pretty weird and random, but the Helm of Saint-14 no longer affects allies when you're guarding with the Sentinel Shield Super. I mean, I've never used the helmet, but I'm guessing that means your teammates would sometimes get blinded when you're shielding, so I guess that's been fixed. Also, the Insurmountable Skull Fort now has properly 3 stat points, so I guess it didn't have one before. And also a very well-known bug about the Colony, the favorite exotic grenade launcher, but only on PC. If you're getting more than 30 frames a second, the little spiders just wouldn't track at all, but now that's been fixed. So on PC, expect a lot more spiders crawling towards you, basically. Also, a super small but random thing that was also in the patch but not in the patch notes is that Masterwork is actually making a little sound when dropping. So if I drag some stuff over, you can hear it's got a little bit of a different sound now, so you can tell when it's dropping. I guess before, when you'd spam a bunch of loot drops, you might sometimes miss Masterworks, but now you can definitely hear them dropping. Now, obviously, with this reset, faction rally ended, so it's now victory week, and New Monarchy is the victor, so not really a massive surprise. They've won like 3 times in a row now. I don't think any of the 3 winning weapons were anything to write home about. They're all pretty average, much like most of the faction loot, to be honest, but this one is probably one of the better guns. Your increased range or high caliber, I'd definitely go for high caliber, and also Rampage, which is always a very good perk. So let's slap a shader on this, because why not? Oh, that's okay. So if you're wondering if this weapon's any good, and if you didn't pledge to New Monarchy, and if you're wondering if this is worth 50 grand, definitely not 50 grand. It's kind of one of those weapons that just shoots really slowly, but packs a massive punch. But it's something that's definitely worth picking up, because like I always say, the March update is going to change pretty much the whole sandbox. I know Pulse Rifle's getting a pretty significant buff. So this weapon, who knows, it could be an absolute monster, especially inside Crucible. This thing could be like a 2-burst kill or just something ridiculous. So if you did grab this thing for the 1000 Glim, if you pledge to New Monarchy, then definitely keep this thing. Don't get rid of it. Put it in your vault and store it away, because it may become really, really good inside the March patch. But if you don't have it and you're wondering if you should spend 50,000 Glimmer on it, I would say probably not. Probably not worth it. This definitely isn't replacing a Nameless Midnight or a Better Devils anytime soon, to be honest. So you can probably already tell the answer, but if you're wondering if the February update is like a big deal or worth checking out, it's pretty much just a quality of life update, nothing more. Just a couple cool features that when they actually add new content might be pretty cool, but the update itself is definitely nothing significant, just some kind of tweaks and fixes and I guess cool things for future content. Now, in terms of when the big patch is going to be, honestly, in my opinion, I would say March 27th. So the March update, the next update, basically. I think it's going to be a very, very important time for Destiny 2. I think it's going to be kind of the breaking point. As I'm sure you're aware, that is when these sandbox changes come. So that's going to be basically Crucible. There's also Rumble. There's 6v6. There's going to be Strike loot, which I think is going to be pretty significant because the Strike loot comes from Nightfall. So The update today, which added all the Nightfall stuff, isn't too fun because the only rewards are just a bunch of emblems and variants and also a few auras, which we've already had. So obviously strike loot was supposed to be inside this update, but it got delayed because they wanted the artist to make them better apparently. So who knows, when Nightfall has actual strike specific loot and apparently cool stuff, then this update might actually be pretty decent. And seeing as there's nothing in the roadmap for April, I'm guessing that's when they're going to hype up and reveal and tease a bunch of stuff about DLC 2. And then obviously in May is when DLC 2 comes out and also Season 3 and even more patches. So it's going to be a gradual improvement of this game. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Obviously any changes, any updates, any news, I'll always be here covering it and let you guys know what's up, give you my thoughts on them, breaking it down. So of course, if you want to stay up to date with all stuff, make sure you are subscribed. But yeah, I think that just about does it for this video. As always, if you enjoyed it and if you want to support the channel, then a like rating down below would be much appreciated. I also made a video recently talking about a bunch of updates, also Rumble, strike loot, and some delayed content. If you missed that video, you can click the image on screen right now to be taken to it. But as always, I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate your support, and I'll see you guys next one.